Welcome to Butler County in east central Nebraska. In this week's edition of BigIron Realty's Fridays in the Field, we'll introduce you to brothers Brenden and Lukas Fricke. Lukas and Brenden, thank you both for being here and joining us for this year's edition of BigIron Realty's Fridays in the Field. First off, tell us a little bit about your operation.
We are a row crop and livestock operation. Livestock pretty much consists of hogs, finishing out hogs. Row crop, we do commercial corn, seed corn, soybeans, a little bit of milo for isolation, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, for row crop wise.
Both of you fairly young. Talk about how you decided to come back into the operation and how that transition has worked.
So Brenden actually went to school for welding and then had the opportunity to come back and start farming with Dad. And then when I graduated from UNL, I was lucky enough he let me back in. So it was a pretty good opportunity to farm with my best friend and be able to have a lot of fun doing this.
When you make the decision to come back, the factors that weigh into that, and then as you evaluate the operation, how you can, whether you diversify at that point or add new things, talk about that decision and the factors that go into that.
Yeah, I think every operation is different, what works for them. For us, I would say there's always enough hog barns to wash and chores to do. So that was never the issue. But yeah, being diversified, I guess, is something Dad instilled upon us. Don't be afraid to diversify. Just make sure that if you diversify, you can follow through on being diversified, which some days I don't know if we do the best job doing that. But no, doing that as far as that goes, myself, my brother-in-law and I, we pick seeds, so that kind of helped me be diversified a little bit and kind of find a way to come back. But then as Dad kind of progressed to get out of the business, that gave Lukas an opportunity to come in, and with his background going to college, with livestock and all that, he knows far more than I do, and we've been able to gain efficiencies as far as livestock production and finding different markets and places to add value to the products that we're selling, or trying to fit a niche and things like that. So
yeah.
Well, let's talk about the year that has been so far, the 2019 growing season. It's been challenging for many folks across the state. Is that the same for here where we're at?
Oh, I mean, we haven't gotten as bad as the people that had flooding. That's just apocalyptic. But, for us, I think we had quite a bit of rain up here for the year. I was looking at our climate and it was saying, we're 10 inches on average. We're 7.2. So, just for this month. So I think that's kind of definitely a showcasing of what's going on. We got some of our commercial stuff in, most of all of our commercial crops in the beginning of the year, but then we're in the later group of seed corn, and then those rains at the end of May just kept pushing us back. But we finally got it done here this last weekend, and some good, nice, warm weather is around the corner. So hopefully that'll keep pushing that out of the ground in a good way.
How's the crop look so far?
Pretty good. I think our earlier plan of commercial corn, we kind of ran into, maybe too wet, too cold, too soon, I feel like. But, for us generally, trying to keep a strong early planting date has been, for a better term. Beneficial, so we try to continue to keep those practices. But, the later planted stuff I feel looks better. But, yeah, overall, I really can't complain too much, so.
One of the unique aspects of your row crop operation, you partner with Syngenta and grow seed corn. Talk about that relationship.
So we've been doing that for...
Dad and Grandpa started about 1989 or 1990. Don't hold me to that exactly. And which was originally ICI out of Coon Rapids, and then Garst bought them out. So then we were with Garst, and then Garst and Golden Harvest made the merger, if I'm remembering this correctly, and now we have Syngenta. Now we raise for Syngenta.
And we're really really good involved with them, and their agronomy staff really helps us to make those right decisions out in the field, and they're there throughout the entire process and, raise a good crop for people, commercial farmers.
Well, let's have Steve join us as we discuss more about the planting season that has been so far. Now, Steve, as we talk about seed corn specifically and the relationship you have with the Fricke brothers, what is different in general about producing seed corn?
Well, we have a pretty good relationship with our farmers and Lukas and Brenden here. They just have to be willing to follow our guidelines, our quality standards. And when we want to plant, we'll place them in an early group, middle group, later group, and they just have to be willing to work with us and go to the field when we tell them to, and set their planters up and work with the herbicide programs accordingly.
And they'll use their own planters in that process.
Correct.
Is it mostly the farmer's equipment at that point from planting to harvest, or will you all use some of your own equipment in that process?
Planting is all growers, and we'll configure the planter accordingly, because with seed corn you plant some female rows and male rows, and we'll work with them to get that set up correctly. Detasseling equipment is our equipment that we own, or a custom person in the area might own, and so then we get our detasseling done that way. And then harvesting equipment is a grower in the area that might have a harvester for us.
Now, when you're planting, you do it at a much higher population than folks might be used to with corn. What's the population on the Frickes here?
Oh, I think it's over 40,000, 40 to 45,000 is generally a population.
With the challenges we've seen this year with planting, how has that affected the seed corn side?
It's just gotten a little bit later. We'd like to plant a little bit later than commercial corn, just to kind of get on the backside of the corn pollen, and so we like to plant maybe just a little bit later, and so we're probably a week to 10 days later than a typical year, just with the challenges we've had with the rain.
What are you watching right now in the fields?
Emergence on some of our later groups here. We planted some, and then we had some heavy rains on it, so we had to irrigate just for some crusting and get some emergence up. And then on some of the earlier corn, we're getting our stand counts and some post-herbicide applications.
Mm-hmm. Steve, we appreciate your time. Lucas and Brenden, as we wrap up, what are you guys watching and doing this time of year, both in terms of livestock and crops?
Probably just like all our neighbors. I mean, as far as that goes, side dressing, post spraying, and then always washing hog barns and loading pigs throughout the year.
Grinding feed, those kind of things.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you, three gentlemen, for joining us on this week's edition of Big Iron Realty's Fridays in the Field. We'll be back with you guys and check in a little bit later in the growing season. But for now, that is it for this week's edition in East Central Nebraska in Butler County.
Big Iron Realty is truly a different type of real estate company. Our unmatched marketing reach and online unreserved land auction platform has positioned us as leaders and innovators in selling farmland. But what really sets Big Iron Realty apart is our family values. We treat you like how we would want to be treated. That means doing the right things for you. If you are buying or selling farmland, give us a call or visit BigIronRealty.com.